Howdy and welcome to my book club. This is our first one. We're going to be talking about the first three chapters of my favorite business book, Work Less, Make More by James Schramko. I love this book for a lot of reasons. The main one being that there's no bullshit in this book. There's no fluff. It is all action. It is all things that you can implement. And the other thing that I like about it is that it's worth a reread because it's something that you can implement whether you're just starting in business, even if you don't have a business, or if you're pretty far along in or have an established business like I do. There's so many lessons you can take from this. And even just from a personal effectiveness standpoint, like if you aren't, an entrepreneur, just learning how to more efficiently use your time and that kind of stuff, there's so many great things in here about, having a better work-life balance. And work-life balance is tough. I think it's one of the hardest things to do as an entrepreneur. So big fan of this book. Going to go over kind of the first three chapters in here, share some lessons, share some thoughts. Would love to hear some of y'all's thoughts. It's been interesting. I've gotten emails from y'all as you've read this, and it's been things like, this book is incredible. Mike, you recommended this to me months ago. I wish I would have picked it back up then, or I've just blazed through the book in a single sitting. I'm already implementing it. But a lot of you are really happy with this book and really excited about it. And I'm excited for you because like I said, I think it's a very, very powerful book. So, first thing that I really want to talk about from this, and I'm not going to do like an exhaustive summary, like book report of this thing. I'm just going to share the things that really stand out to me. And I think the biggest concept in this book that you have to understand is the effective hourly rate, or EHR. And he talks about it on page 11 in the intro. And he says, to work less and make more, all you need to do is move the needle on one metric, effective hourly rate. And he says you can calculate your ERH or EHR, effective hourly rate, by taking how much revenue you make in a month, subtracting your cost, which leaves you with your profit, and then you divide your profit by the number of hours worked. And so when you get this, you can really find out like how effective you are. And it's interesting, like you can increase your EHR by either increasing your earnings or decreasing the amount of time you work. So for example, your hourly rate, essentially, I always think about this as like, if you're an attorney, you have a billable hour and hourly rate. Your hourly rate, if you work less hours, is going to be higher. Right. And so it all comes down to balance. Now, at the end of the day, you probably need a certain amount of money to live on, or you have like a total financial goal you want for your life. But then once you reach that, it's really about, creating more leverage, more time for yourself and improving your EHR, going from earning 100 or 200 per hour to 500 per hour by working less even to earn the same amount. All right, and that's leverage, and that's something that you always want to create in your business. So this is a really important concept, and I don't know my current EHR. I need to start tracking this. One of the things that I've experienced is this kind of idea of like creep, where the amount of time that you work creeps up. And so it's really easy to continue working more and more and more, especially if you love what you do, and to create more tasks for yourself. So I thought this was important, and it reminded me that I need to start tracking my time. I need to be a little bit more effective with my time than I have been. And so one of the things that I'm going to start doing is I've created a spreadsheet where I can track, in 30-minute slots and what I did. And I remember doing this in college when I was a part of the Corps Cadets, Texas A&M. We used this as an exercise of like blocking out study time and that sort of stuff. And it was really effective. It worked really well for me. And so I'm going to do that because I don't know my EHR, but I do know that I work probably more than I should right now, and that I could work less. And by doing this, by focusing on working less, it makes you not more productive, because I think people think of productivity as like just doing more tasks, but it makes you more efficient. You start to apply the Pareto principle of doing the things that are going to give you the most result and getting rid of everything else. And that's something that he talks about in these first three chapters. So I'm going to go ahead and make that spreadsheet available to y'all. So if you'd like it, you can go ahead and download it. You can use it. It's a great way to start tracking your time, because I know I will be. So we get in the first chapter on personal effectiveness, and this is, a good chapter. I think it's worth rereading. I would say these first three chapters are really the most important and worth rereading. But, step number one, there's all these steps here. He's got like 10 steps, and I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I'm trying to see if it's actually 10. Yeah, it's 10 steps. But I will go through a lot of them, but I want to go through number one, look in the mirror. Personal responsibility. one of the things I've discovered as a business owner is that life is better. You are happier and you are more successful when you accept the fact that everything is your fault. If something goes wrong, it is your fault. If something doesn't go your way, it is your fault. And you need to, when you can acknowledge that, you don't take on a victim mindset. You take responsibility for everything, even if it's not really your responsibility. And then what you do is you just take care of the problem and you find a solution. And when you have this personal responsibility mindset instead of a victim mindset where you are like, I'm, I'm responsible for everything that happened. What happens is when bad things happen to you or unexpected things happen to you, things that get in the way of your plan, you take control of your response. And so instead of worrying about the problem, you find a way around it. And I think that's the interesting thing is that in life, we have no control over our circumstances. We can't control how other people act to us. We can't control whether there's traffic, whether we lose our home in a natural disaster, whether someone in our family gets sick, whether, we can't control any of that. But we can control how we respond to things. We can be positive and we can take action. And I think that's the biggest point here for step number one, look in the mirror, is like what it really means is you need to take personal responsibility. And so the biggest thing that this comes down to, and it fits with this book, is when you say, why aren't you having success with your business or your side hustle? What's your biggest struggle? And people say, I don't have the time. Okay. One, that's bullshit, but you don't have the time. Well, you are responsible for your time. Everyone has the same number of hours. It's so cliche. I almost hate to say it, but you have the same amount of time that I have. And it's how you choose to use your time. So you may not feel like you have time, but you probably do. And a good example of that, I'm just going to use a personal example. I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm just trying to give you an example. At one point, I was, a young attorney working a full-time job for an oil and gas company with my first kid. My oil and gas job allowed me to work from home. So I was working from home as a stay-at-home dad, right? My wife had gone back to work. I also had an online fitness business with lots of coaching clients and a very young Facebook ads agency that I was doing solo. And so I didn't have anyone on my team yet. And I was running two businesses solo, working full-time, and had a kid. And I juggled all of it. When I was in law school, I was starting my first online business. I was doing law school, which takes up like your entire life. And I was married. Sorry, my kid is going nuts. There were a lot of things going on. And so the point is that no matter what's going on in your life, you will make time for the things that are important to you, right? And that's what you have to do. So saying I don't have time is that victim mindset, right? There's no time. I can't do it. Poor me. Personal responsibility mindset is, okay, I don't have a lot of time. Let's look at how I'm using my time. Can I use my time more effectively? Can I eliminate things? Am I willing to sacrifice something to do something else, right? When I started building my business, I had all that stuff going on. I sacrificed a lot of things. I sacrificed hobbies. I stopped watching TV. Outside of like maybe watching a movie with my wife or something, I sacrificed my health a little bit. I don't recommend that, but I stopped working out and I stopped focusing on my nutrition, and that's why I'm in the situation now. I'm trying to get back in shape. And so that probably wasn't the best decision, but the point is that like I sacrificed a lot of things. Maybe I didn't sacrifice the right things. I should have kept working out, but getting rid of an extra hour of Netflix every night to work on your side hustle, that's a good trade. That's a good trade. 1 hour less of sleep to work on your side hustle, do it. There's a lot of things that you can do. So have that. This is my situation, but what can I do about it? That's what personal responsibility is about. Track your time for EHR. I'm going to give you guys that spreadsheet. Obviously, like this is important. You don't realize how much you work and you don't realize how much time you spend on nonsense. So when you see this spreadsheet, what you're going to do is you're going to have it's going to say the times, and you're going to write down in the slot like what you did during that time. And then it's going to allow you to say, wow, I spent a lot of time on this, right? You just got to be very honest with yourself. Step 3 is manage your inbox better. And then there's the set up some bumpers, set up filters. So these all kind of go together. So I'm a big believer in this, and I'm just going to summarize it as this. Like your email and social media are a huge time suck for you, and other people are a huge time suck for you. And this is very hard as a business owner, especially having clients. Like I care very deeply about the success of my clients and the success of my students. But if you're going to grow a business, you also have to care about your stuff. And it's very easy to focus on your client stuff or doing things for other people instead of doing the things you need to do to grow your business. And so I first learned about this concept in the 4 Hour Work Week of not checking your email or your social media until later in the day. And then Shramko talks about it in this book. And I think it's very important. And so I'm lucky I have an assistant. She can check my emails. And if there's anything urgent, she can let me know. But the reality is most things are not urgent. When somebody emails you, it's not urgent. It might be urgent to them, but it's not so urgent that like you need to take care of it right away. And things in your inbox and the notifications on Facebook and the messages on Facebook, those are other people trying to get your attention and have you help them with their problems. And it's kind of cold to say this, and I know a lot of you that are watching this are my students or clients, and I love y'all. Like, y'all are great. But I got to do my stuff that way I can serve you better, right? I got to be able to grow my business too. So one of the things I really work on is I set certain times in the day for certain things. But when I get up, I try and do work. I try and get the things I need to get done before I check those things. So I don't look at my emails and I don't have meetings until the evening or the afternoon, I mean, right? And so later in the day, when my energy's lower, I do those things that I can do. Like, I can have a meeting on low energy. You get energy, but I can't write or record video later in the afternoon when I'm tired and groggy, right? I can reply to comments on a Facebook group or reply to emails when my energy's low in that 3 o'clock hour, 2 o'clock hour that happens every day. But I can't bang out a blog post or create a lead magnet during that time. I have to save that in the morning. So you protect your highest energy time and you get your biggest things, the things that move the needle for your business, done early in the day. And so a great way to do that, managing your inbox: one, turn off all notifications on your phone and on your desktop. It's huge. Make sure that you unsubscribe from email. I ruthlessly unsubscribe for email newsletters. I follow my business partner, I follow my copywriter, and I follow one other copywriter that teaches email copy. And those are the only people that I follow and I'm on email lists for. So it keeps my inbox clean. And even if I subscribe to somebody to see their funnel, I will turn off, get the little guy, I will turn off, their emails that once I get the thing that I want to get from them, because I don't even want to take the time to filter. He talks about that in the book. Like, taking the time to filter or review or delete emails is a time suck, and it's a decision-making process. So you want to eliminate it. All right. And then just setting up some kind of bumpers and stuff. So setting up those rules for myself that, like, I'm not going to respond to the emails and stuff till later in the day. It's huge. It has a massive impact on your productivity. It allows you to be done with your work earlier in the day that way, and then focus on those things instead of what happens when you wake up and you pull up your phone, you check your email, and you check Messenger, and you check your notifications on Facebook and on Instagram and everywhere, and you do all of that stuff, and then you're doing your work, and next thing you look up and you go, oh my gosh, it's already 4 o'clock. How did that happen? It happened because you were focusing on things that weren't moving the needle for your business first, instead of focusing on your business first. And so you want to do a little bit of a switch there. Time blocks. I love this. It's hard for me with the kids to do this, but I recommend you do it as much as you can. Schedule time for things. I schedule time personally for being in my Facebook group and answering student questions. I schedule time for when I check my email. I schedule time for talking to my team members and things in the agency. I would love to schedule time blocks for when I'm going to work on certain things, but that doesn't work for me having the kids. It's a little too up and down. My schedule is too varied every day. So instead, I set my highest priorities, no more than 1 to 3 things that are needle movers in my business. And those are the first things I work on. And when I have an opportunity, I go, okay, I'm going to work for 30 minutes or I'm going to work for an hour straight. And I kind of block in that way. But I think time blocking is super, super effective. And then he talks about focus, sleeping, eating, moving, purging things. Like, this is all really great stuff, being healthy. I'm trying to go on more walks, to exercise, to eat better. Doing those things gives you more energy, helps you feel better, helps you be more productive. It's something that I have not done well with lately, and I'm sure a lot of you haven't either, but it is super important. And I can tell you from building a business and sacrificing that, I wish I hadn't. I wish I was still high energy, working out regularly, 6-pack like I used to be, instead of being in really bad shape like I am right now. And the last one, creating routines. Habits and routines are super important. The less decisions you have in a day, the more effective things are going to be for your willpower. So you want to create habits, you want to create routines. Time blocking and having those filters and things helps with that a lot. So if at this time every day, I'm going to check this thing, I'm going to get on Facebook, do my notifications, do my emails. I know that every day from 8 a.m. to 10 10 o'clock, I'm going to be creating content, whatever it may be. You're going to become more effective because you have a routine, and it's not a decision. It's just the thing you do. So on to chapter 2. All right. So chapter 2 is about planning and goal setting. I think this is super important. And it's funny because I hadn't read this in so long, and I've had a process that I've developed over time. And it's very similar to Shramko's process. So this is a great primer for y'all on like how I do things and what I recommend you doing anyway. So the first thing he talks about is why planning is so important. And I used to be one of those people that would just go and just do things, and I would just be on a whim. And it's not super effective. And I've tried to become more of a planner, and have become more of a planner over time. You also don't want to spend so much time planning that you don't get anything done. And so when I plan, I set a timer. I'm very quick. But planning is important because if you're not planning appropriately, your EHR is going to decrease because you're going to waste time. And a big part of planning is making sure that you've set scheduled time to get important things done, like big projects, doing projects early in the day, that kind of thing, that you're focusing on the right priority things, the high leverage things, the things that are going to have the most bang for your buck, the 20% that gives you 80% of the results, those things, right? Planning makes sure that you get those things done. And the other big thing with planning is it kind of like helps you figure out whether something should be done or not. So the big thing here he talks about that I want to point out, the first big thing is on page 29, why planning is important. And he talks about like there's so many opportunities in business, and you need to plan, and you need to make sure you don't take too many opportunities. And the way we do this at Laptop Empires, Bobby and I have ideas all the time. But what we do is we have kind of our goals for the week and for the month. And anytime we have an idea, it goes into a bucket. We put it aside until later. And then for the next month, we review everything and figure out from those ideas which ones that we want to pursue. And sometimes we're going to realize, wow, that wasn't a great idea. We almost went down that rabbit hole. We would have wasted time. And we did that at times in the first year of our business together. But sometimes you go, oh, that one aged well. We slept on it. Still a good idea. We need to make that a high priority. But it helps you stay focused, because being focused on one thing and getting it done effectively, you're going to get more things done than if you try and juggle a bunch of projects at once. I've learned that the hard way. It's one of the reasons why, like, even though I have 2 businesses, Bobby has 2 businesses, we don't recommend that. We recommend having one business. If his blog and my agency were not already established, having 2 businesses like this wouldn't work. But we have team in place, and it gives us some leverage and allows us to work on a new business. So that's an important thing about planning. He calls it clearing your brain. I call it a brain dump. And basically, you need to get a whiteboard. I got a big whiteboard over there. Yellow pads. I got one right here. I use yellow pads all the time. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes, write down every single thing that you need to do, and then rank them, figure out what your priorities are, and then start scheduling them throughout the week. This is super important. Get it out of your brain. I do a couple of things. I do a brain dump at the beginning of the week. I have this planner that's like a daily planner. And as the day goes on, I add things to it, just ideas like to write down. And then what I will do is at night, before I go to bed, I will try and do a mini brain dump. It helps me sleep, because I'm one of those people, my mind's constantly going, it's constantly racing. And so when I lay down for bed, unless I'm exhausted, I will be awake for an hour or 2 because I have ideas. My brain starts going like crazy. Writing it all down, getting it out of my mind helps me go to sleep. So that's a really big. So get your brain dump, figure out what you want to do. The next thing, and he says here, one second, point 5 on how to do it. Circle the top 3 items that must remain in your sphere of focus and transfer them in order of importance to your daily action pad. Love that. I never want to try to do more than 1 to 3 things per day. If I can have one big project per day, that's ideal. So I try to figure out what my top priorities are and schedule one for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And just have one big thing per day. Today's big thing, recording this video. So that's really big. Another thing he talks about earlier in the book, when he meets with his students, he has a big coaching business. When he meets with his students, he says to them at the end of their meetings, and I do this with my coaching students as well, right? My coaching clients. And we say, what is the number one thing that you need to achieve in your business this week? And that becomes the main focus, and only that one thing. And what happens is when you focus on just that one thing and getting it done, you make massive progress in a week. And if you get one massive project per week done over the course of a year, let's say that you take 4 weeks off. That's almost 50 things that you're going to get done even with 4 weeks off, right? 50 big projects. You're going to make massive progress in your business. So I highly recommend that. when it comes to the goal setting, he has his 3 layers of planning. Layer 1, goal setting. The big thing that I like here about this and that I want to point out is this idea of make sure you're happy with it. Are you happy with the constraints that come with this future reality? Are you comfortable with the associated risks? Do you know someone else experienced this kind of reality? What kind of life do they have? Do you want that life? All that kind of stuff. I think this is really important. I'm going to give you a very good example. This video. I love the idea of this book club. I read all the time. It seemed like a no-brainer to me. But you may have noticed there was a little bit of a delay in me getting the content out. And it wasn't, part of it was a delay in me reading. There was stuff going on. But a big part of it was the writing. I was having a very hard time with the writing. I was trying to type everything out, and I was traveling a lot. And so I was typing on the plane and everything. And I was spending hours and hours writing the initial newsletter for y'all. And the reality is, like, writing is very time intensive for me. And so as I was going through the writing, I was thinking this, and I was like, I'm not happy with this project. I don't know if this is going to work. I just created a ton of extra work for myself for this book club thing, and I love the idea of it, but I don't know if it's worth it. And so if I would have gone through this, make sure you're happy with it. Are you happy with the constraints that come with this? And I didn't ask myself that question. I didn't think about it. And so then I thought, well, I've already committed to this. I want to do it. I'm not going to just back out. So how can I eliminate those constraints so I will be happy with it in the future? And what I thought about is, I'm better at video. I can knock out video very quickly, and I think I can deliver a higher value product via video. And a book club is about discussion. It's about opening your book and talking about what's in the book. And so I think me sitting here on the video, looking at my book and looking at the notes and kind of like talking to you about it, I think this has more of a book club feel. So I think it's more effective. So I was able to solve a problem. And now I think this is going to be really awesome. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. I hope so. You let me know. But if I had said, are you happy with the constraints that come with this future reality? I either would have decided to do this video thing at the very beginning, or maybe not done this project, right? Because a big thing is, like he said earlier, you got to say no to opportunities. You got to stay focused. I love this though, and I think this is going to work really well. I'm really happy with how this is going so far. Next, he talks about time blocking, scheduling, checking in. And this is a really important section. Highly recommend you read it. We're going to get into the Einstein matrix here in a little bit. But because it's in the next chapter, but I think it's really important. And then doing the review, he mentions 12 weeks. There's a great book called 12-Week Year. I'm sure we're going to read it in the book club that kind of goes into this kind of stuff. But I like to do a monthly review and planning, but 12 weeks is really good as well. But go ahead, you can just read the rest of that section and on your own. And let's get into chapter 3. Chapter 3, focus and the power of 64-64. So the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 principle, is the idea that 20% of the things that you do will give you 80% of the results. And this plays out in nature everywhere. The 80-20 principle is everywhere, and it's very factual. It's very much happens in business. There's a small amount of your work that produces the most money, the most whatever results. Like, that's just how it is. And Shramko has the idea of 64-4, which is applying the 80-20 principle to the 80-20 principle. So what is the 20% of the 20% that will get you the most results? Well, when you go to the 20% of the 20%, you get 4. And so what's the 4% of the things you do that get you 80% of the 80% or 64% of the results? And so the idea here is you can do the 20% that get you 80%, or you can do the 4% that get you the 64%. Really powerful concept. Love it. And one of the big, most important things for it is you need to have a weighted to-do list, right? And so this is that idea. I do it. The way I do it is I have my needle movers and my feed the animals tasks. So my needle movers are the things that are to grow my business. They're the things I need to do that are going to grow my business. They're for no one else. They're only for me. It cannot be a needle moving task unless it is for my business, or it's a massive client project. If it's like a really, really big, important client project, like a massive launch or something. And then the feed the animals tasks are going to be the daily things you got to do, like checking your email, me talking to my students in Facebook. He's just back there opening all the drawers. It's all good. Those sorts of things. Talking to my clients, right? Talking to my team. Those are things I have to do every day, right? Like feeding the animals on the farm. But then the other feed the animal things are like things I got to do for other people, right? And it's like, I have to go do this thing for a client, or I have an affiliate that asked me to do this project. I'm doing it for them. It's important, but it's important for somebody else, not for my business. And so although it's the top of that feed the animals list, it's not my big thing. So I try to have 1 to 2 needle mover things at most, and then only have, 1 to 2 in the feed the animals that are for other people. That's my 1 to 3 for the day. And then I've got just the regular daily tasks. So my day cannot end until I finish the needle movers, and the feed the animals things do not happen until I finish the needle movers. But another way to do it, the weighted to-do list, is you can use this Einstein box of like the high urgency and high importance, and you can label this stuff out, and you can rank things 1, 2, and 3. And this is really great. So like if it's something that's urgent and important, right? That's super important. That means you need to do it like right now, right? That's like a 1, right? If it's urgent but not important, then that can be something that's probably going to be delegated. Somebody else can do it, right? The not urgent but important is something that needs to be scheduled. You need to do it. It's important. Now, this not urgent and important stuff, I would say, is actually some of the most important work you do. It's a thing like creating your lead magnet, creating a funnel, an email sequence, creating an ad, writing whatever, like all the stuff that you need to do for your business that you're like, man, I really need to do that. It's important, but you never get around to it because you're fighting fires, doing client work or doing whatever, busy work or whatever. And so it's really important, this high importance, not urgent stuff. You need to schedule those things. So I always go, if it's urgent, important, I do it now, or I do it that day. If it's urgent, not important, generally I delegate that, right, to somebody else to do. If it's not urgent and not important, I'm just getting rid of it. And then if it's not an urgent but it's important, I'm going to schedule it. That's probably going to be a needle mover, but maybe like later in the week. All right. So that's kind of how I use that. So some people do a brain dump and they'll rank them 1, 2, 3. Right? 1s are the things that are going to move your business forward. 2s are the things that are important, but somebody else can do them. And so if you have a team, those are delegates. If you don't have a team, they're called delays. Like you're going to do them later. Maybe you schedule those. And then 3s are the things it's like, they're nice to have. If they happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. Also great things to delegate or things to not do because they're not going to fall into that 64-4 principle. So the other big thing, he's got a section here about like if you only have one thing to do, doing it becomes a lot easier. This is why I try to just have one big important task for the day. You feel good, and then when you're done, you can be done with the day. But if you still have energy, you can go do more stuff. You can get ahead on your list. So for me, instead of having this big to-do list where I have everything on it and I try and get as much done as I can every day, I now try and split it up and say, this is what I'm doing on Monday, this is what I'm doing on Tuesday, this is what I'm doing on Wednesday. If today's Wednesday, if I get all my stuff done for Wednesday, and I have energy to do the stuff for tomorrow, then I'm going to do the thing for tomorrow and free up some free time tomorrow. But if I don't feel like doing anything, I'm just going to be done. And that makes your life a whole lot better. This whole section, you really, really need to go through the entire thing and read it for yourself. It's really, really good. And I can't do it justice. But there's a couple of things that I really like here. Number 3 on page 42, amplify the things that work. Don't worry so much about improving the things you're not good at. Focus on going all in on the things you're good at. If something's working, do more of it, right? That's really important. I love this number 5, stop selling one-time products. Membership, subscription, retainers, love retainers. You don't want to sell things over and over and over. It's a lot easier, right? Let's say you want 10 sales a month. It's easier to sell somebody once, 10 people once, and then it recurs every month than it is to sell 10 new people every month. So that's something important to keep in mind in your business. Number 6 is another one. Let go of things you do well. This is very hard. There's going to be things that you can do better than the people on your team or better than other people can do. That doesn't mean you should do them. If someone else can do it at 80% of your capacity, you need to let them do it. Great example of this is the agency, the Facebook ads themselves, right? I still do a lot of the analysis. I do the sales. I do a lot of client communication. But when it comes to building the funnels and creating the ads and even some of the ad analysis, my team can do it and they can do it well. I can do it faster. I might be able to do it better, but they can still do it and get great results. And my time is better used elsewhere. And so you need to figure out what those things are in your business too. So that's it. That's really the first 3 chapters. Super important stuff. If you finish the book, then you definitely need to go back and read that again. that section again. It's super important. I highly recommend you do that. For the next one, we're going to be talking about chapter 4 and 5 and 6. So chapter 4 is building a team. Chapter 5 is going to be, I don't know, creating an offer that converts. And then cash flow and the profit formula. This is going to be really good information. I've got a lot of stuff to share with y'all on those topics just from my own personal experience. So read those if you haven't already. I'll have a new video coming to you soon. I hope you like this format. Let me know what you think. See you next time.